excited. I'm so excited because I have just hit 10,000 subscribers. So really, this is a thank you video. It is also a video talking about the giveaway I've been waiting to do. I'm gonna read a little bit from the book that I'm giving away. And so if you're interested in any of that, stay tuned. Hey guys, Laura here from What Laura Likes. Thank you so much to each and every one of you. I had a goal of hitting 10,000 subscribers with, at my 2-year mark. I didn't quite hit it, and that's okay, because you know what? Life happens, things happen, and this is completely up to God. This channel is handed over to Him. His will is what's leading it, and so, His will be done. And however He wants to use His channel, I'm open to that. And so it's exciting to hit double digits, I think, just from a analytic standpoint, and just, to be able to say that there's 10,000 people who have hit that subscribe button. Just a big milestone. And more importantly, I promised you guys a giveaway when I hit this landmark. And so I want to talk to you a bit about this book, Trustful Surrender to Divine Providence, The Secret of Peace and Happiness. And so let me read you the little intro here. The following pages were written by a well-known French religious writer of the 17th century, Father Jean-Baptiste Saint-Georges, 1588 to 1657, and are an extract from his great work entitled The Knowledge and Love of Our Lord Jesus Christ, which was the constant companion during life of the saintly curé of Ars, which I think is, oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget the saint's name. Tell me below who the curé of Ars is. I know who that is. Saint John Vianney, is that right? To them has been added a further extract from the writings of Saint Claude de la Colombière, which is 1641 to 1682. So these priests, are writing during the time of the Reformation and after the Reformation, and this whole book is about God's will, divine providence. What does it mean when we say that we want to align our will with God's will? What does it mean, when somebody dies or becomes ill or there's a coronavirus? What does that mean? Is God in this? Is this of the devil? Like, what is that? This whole book answers it. And ultimately, we must attribute everything to God. And that's hopeful. That's not bad. Because God is all good. God is all knowing. God is all powerful. And so when we hand over everything to God, then we can trust, because that's where that trustful surrender comes in. So with this coronavirus, it can be like, oh my gosh, this is really scary. We're really fearful. We might die. Well, one, we all know we're going to die, memento mori, so prepare, because you don't know what's going to take you. Second of all, we are not supposed to worry. 365 times in the Bible, it says, do not worry, or something along those lines. So also, worrying is not of God. And 3, we must just accept this and accept that we can't see the bigger picture, but we can already see some of the fruits that are coming from this strange time we live in. Things like families coming back together, mothers and fathers coming home and homeschooling their children, spouses getting to spend time together, people being drawn to the Mass in a new way, saying, oh my goodness, I yearn for this. Having to seek out prayer, having to seek out Mass. It's not just handed to you by the priest down the street anymore. You have to search it out. Learning what a spiritual communion is, which is so powerful, and every Catholic ideally has a spiritual communion memorized. We don't know what's going to happen in our lives. If you end up in prison, if you end up sick in bed, if you end up, who knows, right? We don't know what's going to happen in our future. And it's so funny because I think that our generation in particular can look back over the past generation and just see, our parents just kind of raised us up and everything was pretty peaceful the whole time. And you have to go back a couple of generations to see the chaos of World War I and II, Vietnam, to really see that the Great Depression, those parents were raising children in among chaos for a long time, over and over again. And so to think that our generation is somehow immune to chaos and to public calamity is to be naive and to not pay attention to history. And I think God is saying, hello, wake up. There's more to life than just going to work and coming home and playing your video games and watching your TV and eating the foods you like and kind of sort of hanging out with your kids. And I'm not saying that everybody does that, but there are people that is their pattern. And we all have sins. We all have things that we all have vices we need to root out. And this, especially during Lent, this timing is not accidental, because nothing God does is an accident. And so I want to read you a few excerpts to get you excited about this book, and then I'll tell you about how to enter the giveaway. God controls all events, whether good or bad. It says, nothing happens in the universe without God willing and allowing it. This statement must be taken absolutely of everything, with the exception of sin. So sin is the only thing God doesn't will. So our free will, one is so that we can align ourselves with God. We can either choose our will or His will, right? And trustful surrender will take you to a place where you can really give your will over to God's and say, whatever happens, that's my will. So if you get sick, you're not upset, because you can have sorrow and you can have pain, but you're not complaining, you're not grumbling, you're not, saying you wish it wasn't so, because, oh my gosh, God's willing it. So you better, if you're aligning your will with God's, then you're accepting it, because He's doing everything to you specifically for your sanctification. Because again, this is not the point. This is not where our end game is, right? Our end game is heaven, and we must always have our eyes up to heaven. On page 10, let us conclude then with St. Augustine. All that happens to us in this world against our will, whether due to men or to other causes, happens to us only by the will of God, by the disposal of providence, by His orders and under His guidance. And if from the frailty of our understanding we cannot grasp the reason for some event, let us attribute it to divine providence, show Him respect by accepting it from His hand, believe firmly that He does not send to us without cause. Now, further on in the book, it talks about how He will never send us something that we cannot handle, that He will always give us sufficient grace to handle whatever He gives us, even if we are mourning, even if we are sorrowful. I mean, the thing about life is we know we're going to have pain, and we know we're going to have sorrow. And all we have to do is to look to Jesus and Mary to see these facts, right? We can see the way of the cross. We can see Jesus' passion. We can see Mary's 7 sorrows. And we know that our life is not going to be filled with sunshine and, sparkles all the time. But yet we must find joy even in moments of sorrow. And our joy comes from this depth with Jesus Christ, this personal relationship we have. There's this beautiful image that a saint gave one time, that your soul, I think it was a saint, your soul is like an ocean. And that even if the upper levels of the water kind of get ruffled from time to time, whether it's from, an illness or some kind of pain or some kind of sorrow, and note that I don't say an argument with your spouse, but even if things get kind of ruffled, then your baseline is still peace, because you still have trustful surrender to God. Now, when it comes to your spouse and other people, and perhaps some of the day-to-day conflict, that's all pride. And so that is a level of getting to a place of humility. So there's also a quote, and this is from a saint, that says to truly become a saint, and I wish I knew where I read this stuff, but I don't, is that major joyful events and also like conflict does not change your attitude. That you will not get ruffled by, say, someone saying something that irks you, or you just won't get irked. You'll get to a place where you can just kind of accept everything and see you act charitable towards everybody. And Saint Therese, the Little Flower, says this perfectly in a story of the story of a soul. And near the end, she talks about dealing with sisters that personally irritate her, and how she just strived to be charitable towards them. And that's really, just such a beautiful lesson to all of us. So that when our husbands say something that maybe, internally kind of irritates us, that we can immediately look towards charity and say, how can I receive that with charity? How can I see either his hurt, my own participation in that, or just to act charitable in response, and to look at that moment as, the glass half full versus half empty. So much conflict would be cured by that. So, of course, the book references Job because the Lord taketh, and the Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh. Everything is God's, even our spouse, even our children. You know, the greatest sorrow would be to lose a child for sure, and I'm not making light of this, but again, that child is God's, and if you can get to a place, and I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying I'm not going to be, I wouldn't be completely full of sorrow. Again, sorrow doesn't mean you're not trusting God. It means you're experiencing pain, and even to this Sunday we heard about Jesus weeping at the death of Lazarus. So the sorrow is not ungodly, but not trusting and not assuming that God knows best more than we do. That's where things can get into a tricky place we don't want to go. So just a couple more. I mean, I could read this whole book to you because and if you've watched any of my live videos lately, I've been reading you so many things from them. But it says here on 25, do not let ourselves be troubled when we are sometimes beset by adversity, for we know that it is meant for our spiritual welfare and carefully proportioned to our needs, and that a limit has been set to it by the wisdom of the same God who has set a bound to the ocean. If you keep going, it talks about the different things that have happened, conforming our will to His. It says, in order for us to enjoy peace and calm, we need to have nothing opposing our will and everything done in the way we want. But who can expect to have such happiness except the man whose will is entirely conformed to the will of God? Every will that tries to oppose the will of God is bound to be overcome and broken, and instead of peace and happiness, its effects can only end in humiliation and bitterness. He and He alone, whose will is perfectly united to God's, possesses the peace of God which surpasses all understanding. He alone can say with God Himself, all my will shall be done. Because wishing all that God wishes and only what God wishes, His wishes are always fulfilled, and nothing can happen that He does not wish. And one more part I want to read to you about is when it comes to public calamity. There's a couple of spots here. It's on page 42 if you have the book already. But it says, we ought to conform to God's will in all public calamities, such as war, famine, and pestilence, and reverence and adore His judgments with deep humility, in the firm belief that, however severe they may seem, the God of infinite goodness would not send such disasters unless some great good were to result from them. And then he says, which I find really awesome, is as far as we are personally concerned, let us meditate well on this truth of our faith, that the very hairs of our head are numbered. And that's Matthew 10:30. This whole book quotes scripture. Relying on this truth, we can easily understand that we have nothing more or less to fear in times of public calamity than at any other time. God can just as easily protect us in the midst of general ruin and despair, as He can deliver us from evil while all around is peace and content. The only thing we need to be concerned about is to gain His favor, and this is the inevitable effect of conforming our will to His. So with that, I could keep reading, but this book has given me unshakable peace during this time. Like I've said before in other videos, I literally was like I was having panic attacks back in December. I was kind of a mess. I was really, and I got ill over Thanksgiving and then again right after, or starting at Christmas. But because of this book, I was able to say, thy will be done. Like, Lord, if you want me to be ill, like I was really sick and, sicker than I had been in a long time. It was the flu of some kind, right? And I was able to just say, thy will be done. Oh, I wanted actually to read you one more spot because it had to do with last of spiritual constellation. So page 65, it says, if then it is God who has placed you in the condition you are in, so like isolation, no mass, right? They're talking about illness in this point, but it is He who dispenses you from the practices of your religion, nay, forbids them. So you should not worry. So don't worry about not being attending mass in person. However, remember that in exchange, He expects you to take more care in doing His will by giving up your own. And so rather than railing against mass being canceled, it's so important right now to find a live mass, okay? take time, get dressed like you're going to Mass, find a live Mass, because then you're truly present for the consecration. You really are participating in that Mass spiritually. And then say a spiritual communion, and then, do the other things that our Holy Father is asking us to do, to pray the rosary, to do the Way of the Cross, to pray the Divine Mercy Chaplet. These are things you can do every single day, and they will change your life if you do them consistently every day and really give that time to Jesus the way we should be. All right, so enough of that. The way I'm giving this book out is there will be a link for gleam.io down below. The requirements are going to be similar to my last giveaway. You're going to, there's going to be different prayers that you can say. They'll be worth a certain number of entries. And then you could also, I wasn't able to link my Facebook last time, but if you follow me on IG or follow me on Facebook, I think that gives you an extra point. All the details will be down below. And I'm going to give away 5 of these. And because of the situation we're in, I'm going to direct mail them to you. So from Amazon. And I don't know how long they're going to take, but we'll just go with it whenever. So we'll run the giveaway for about a week, and then I'll ship the books out to you guys. And I'm so excited. If you don't want to wait for the giveaway, that you can get this through Amazon, but also you can get it on your Kindle, and you can get it on Audible. And so I have it also on Audible, and I find it really, really reassuring. If you have any kind of anxiety or any kind of stress over the situation right now, I highly, highly suggest it. It's like $5. It will just allow you to just have some peace. And I will link down below a link to audible.com. I think your first book is free. I actually probably wouldn't make this my first book because it's only like $5 on Audible. At least the last time I checked it was. But you can always, use your free book, and then you can just buy this straight up. So I will give all those details down below, but please let me know how you were doing. If you have videos that you think would be helpful during this time for me to shoot, let me know, and I will do my very best. I love each and every one of you. Thank you again so much for supporting my channel, for supporting my family, supporting this ministry. This is all the Holy Spirit. If you're feeling like God is calling you to do some kind of public ministry or some kind of public outreach, just say yes and take that first step, because, even if we change one life and we get to go to heaven and Jesus is like, who have you brought with you? And this one soul is like, hey, thank you. Then you've done something. And I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. So listen, ask God how he wants to use you. And it could be just being an amazing mother or wife, or an amazing husband and spouse, or an amazing young person that speaks about the faith or lives the faith well, lives a chaste, pure life, or an older person who can speak of life experience and speak to the younger generations about our faith and about how important it is to always be looking towards eternity. There's so many things that you and I can do, even if it's just sharing on our social media and being outspoken about our Catholicism. And I have a whole video about that I'll pin up here. But you guys, God bless. Have a really beautiful day. Thank you so, so much for all that you have done, all your prayers, all your comments. I absolutely love interacting with you. That's why I love doing live videos, because I love the interaction. If someone had told me a couple years ago this is where my life would be, I would be like, are you kidding me? That sounds amazing. And I just can't believe that would happen. And here we are. And who knows what another couple years would do. So anyway, you guys, God bless. Have a very beautiful day. Continue to know God, love God, and do God's will. And I'll talk to you again real soon. Bye.